All right, hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study. Okay, verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Excuse me. Currently, we are in Luke's Gospel, chapter 21, and again, we're just really coming down to the wire here, just uh, within a few days of Jesus going to the cross. And and also just keep this in mind from Luke's perspective. We are seeing this through a Gentile eyes, the telling of the story through a Gentile's eyes. Okay, and and so we're going to come across a story here where um, I'm going to take a little time to rant. Okay, I'm taking a little time to rant because we see, in my opinion, so much wickedness in the church. So much wickedness in the church, and it's like right before our eyes. So let me get to it, and you will see why I'm ramped up about this. But um, Luke's Gospel, chapter 21, and oh, is there another one? All right. I just want to see. This is um I'm trying to think if this is the only place where this is told. But anyway, here we go. He looked up and he saw the rich dropping their offerings into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow dropping in two tiny coins. He said, I tell you the truth, he said, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. But all these people have put in gifts out of their surplus, but she, out of out of her poverty, has put in all she had to live on. Now, that there's a couple of ways that this is, you know, um, this story here is very interesting. Here's the thing: you rarely see this story taught among a lot of churches today, mega churches, people on television. I see a lot of to me corrupt offerings or the taking up of offerings. Okay, and this story really illustrates, I think, the heart of God, and yet you will see how it's kind of the opposite. And again, it's just amazing to me. It's just amazing to me that when you see how offerings are taken today in churches, and first you have to understand why offerings are taken. You have to understand why they're taken like that. You kind of have to understand that the ministries today thrive on your giving. Now they will tell you that they believe that their ministries are raised up by God, and they will they will lie to you and tell you that they're trusting God. But their offerings, the way that a lot of churches raise money for their ministries, okay, it it there's the range of it, but some of the worst way is the deceptive ways that they manipulate people to give. And in some cases, in a lot of cases, they will tell you to give so that their ministries can profit. And they're not even using the fact that this poor widow who gave all that she had. Some do, some do, some do. I take that back. Some do. But um, when Jesus looked at, he says, now you look at all of the offerings. By the way, a lot of the ministries, the well-known ones, fit in the first category when he says that he saw the rich dropping their offerings, how they drop their offerings. And it was a show, just like you see a lot of churches. They have, these elaborate, almost fake, phony kind of shows. I mean, way that you give. And again, it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about getting the money. See, one of the things you have to understand is always beware of the ambitious minister, because he uses a lot of these ways in which to grow his ministry. And of course, in today's society, the way that you grow, you need money to grow your ministry. So why do they need to grow the ministries? One, they get more money, they get more fame, which produces more money. And the sad thing is that they used God in which to do that. Jesus he noticed how the rich saw the rich dropping their offerings into the treasuries. And how people were clapping, how people were making a big deal, how people were doing, you know, um, um, kind of lauding it. And then you see the same thing today, how churches will think about some of the ministries you see on television. Well, just think about how you see some of the churches, how they, when they have their begathons. Oh, I'm sorry, some of them call praise-a-thons, right? And when you see how they, uh, um, they will be like, Aunt Jenny, she just gave $500. Bless you, Aunt Jenny. Bless you. You know, but anyway, this is just. I'm not going to rant. I was going to go on and on and on, but I think this is kind of self-explanatory how Jesus looked upon this. He looked up and he saw the rich. Notice this, dropping off their offerings in the temple, and then he also saw a poor widow dropping off. I will say this: there was a um, commercial. I think it was put out by the 700 Club. And by the way, they're guilty of a lot of this stuff too. But they used to have these wonderful commercials. And one of the commercials that they were showing was this scene here where the rich were giving their offerings and how people were applauding and all that. And then you saw this little poor widow, creep up, not creep, but just kind of slowly give up and put in, and how people were laughing and snickering. But notice Jesus' response. He said, all these people have put in gifts out of their surplus, but she, out of her poverty, has gave all that she had to live on. And that to me is, as Jesus said, worth more, because she gave from her heart. She gave to God from her heart. And let me just say something, is that if you're giving because you have been promised, you've been lied to, and they do lie to you, that if you give, that you're going to reap a hundredfold return. You're going to reap prosperity. All right. I have been a Christian for over 46 years. I have been through all kinds of teachings like that. I've sat in the ministries that taught prosperity, that taught giving, that taught the laws of prosperity. I've sat under them. And after 46 years, I can tell you that I have never seen one single person ever receive what they were promised based upon the giving. Not one single person, not even the preachers, not even the teachers. Now, one of the most wealthiest teacher, okay, one of the wealthiest teacher, is literally worth $1 billion, according to certain estimates, right? He does. By the way, he doesn't when his ministry gets into um, financial trouble, like the ministry. I said, not him. He's fine. And when the ministry, like, usually when we go through recession, something like that, well, he'll lay off. He'll lay people off. He won't, out of his abundance, say, you know what? Let me help the ministry out. Okay. Now, I could tell you that not one single person has ever received what they claim. And I was taught, and you go back to the 70s, and one of the captivating things about what's called, at the time, it was called the Word of Faith Ministries. And out of the Word of Faith Ministries, they developed these certain principles for living your life. Now, one of the terms that came decades after that was living your best life. Okay, but they taught that if you follow their teachings, that you will be rich beyond your wildest dreams. If you follow their teachings, you would be healthy. You would live you would live a long life. 120 years if you want to. 120 years. And that not only would you live 120 years, you would live 120 years full of health. You would be as if you was in your 30s and 40s. This is what they taught, their words. Not one single one has done that. No, not one single one has made it to 120 years. You get back to the money. How they bought, now the churches that I was a part in, especially when they would bring people in all the time and just fleece the people. People would think, if I sow seeds into this ministry, I would reap 100-fold return. My house would get paid off. Again, not one single person. Now, sometimes people would say, oh my God, here's my testimony. I sold money into the ministry and God paid off my gas bill. But that's not the promise. Thank God he paid off your gas bill, but that's not the promise. Where is the abundance? Churches today, not only the Word of Faith churches, but just churches all over. Think about this. They teach the tithe. Now, the tithe is one of the biggest ways they bully people. They install fear in people because they say, look, you're going to be cursed with a curse if you don't tithe. And yet the promise of tithing, this is what God says in Malachi 3, that he would open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing where there's not room enough to receive. Not one single person who's listened to that teaching has ever had the windows of the heavens open unto them, and a blessing poured out from heaven that there's not room enough to receive. Not one single person. Not one single person. Not one single person has received the 100-fold return. So again, why do these pastors continually teach and push those lies, those false teachings? Simply, they just need your money, and they give you a false hope. And I was one of the ones. I could tell you that I was dumb enough to keep believing, to keep, okay, well, maybe one day it's going to happen. Maybe one day, And then here was the funny thing. That the teachers periodically So stretch it out, let's say over the 46 years that I've been a believer, that periodically they had to address why people are not getting rich. And again, um, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, so I'll just speak for myself. I was dumb enough to fall for this cockamamie story, this excuse. So one of the first things was that I heard was the teachers would say, "Well, wait a minute. Oh, wait, you got to send out your angels. y'all not sending out your angels. That's why you're not getting. That's why you're not getting any return on your giving, on your sowing, even though that's not what the teaching said at first." Then you go a little while longer. Then they said, "Oh, we know you have to receive your tithe according to Deuteronomy 26." So I used to get my family together and we get a little basket and we would give our money and we would pray that made up prayer according to Deuteronomy 26, which Deuteronomy 6 did not, we made up a prayer. All right, well, we still didn't get the window of heaven open unto us. We still didn't. It was a prayer we made up based upon that. The pastors and the teachers made up this prayer. And they would have everybody do that. Well, we did that, and we still didn't get the hundredfold return or the window of heaven's blessings. And then they came out and they said, well, you know what? You have to send your angels out to get your money. Oh, come on, guys. You're not doing that, right? Even though they never said it at the beginning. Right? So in other words, people kept saying, "Hey, where's the money? Show me the money." And then, "Oh, well, you got to send your angels." So we were sending the angels. Angels, go out and get my money. And then there was this weird, just bizarre pastor that would have people, "Money, come to me now," right? And he would have people doing these chants all around his meetings. "Money, come to me now." Okay, do you have the money? Nobody, the money never came. People, come on. Some of y'all have still. Where's the money? The money has never came. And then watch this. Here's one. There was another one who said, "Oh, God showed me a revelation why y'all ain't getting y'all money. You gotta name your seed. That's why y'all not getting your money, because you're not naming your seed. So when you give, you gotta say, this is a seed for my new Cadillac. This is a seed for my new house." So people would write on the envelopes, "This is the seed money." They still ain't got it. See, it's just one deception after the other. Let me just say something. You know why you should give? You should give because you love God. You should give because you support the ministry. Your reward is the fruit that ministry bears. That's why you should give. Not because you underhandedly think, "I'm going to be a millionaire like them." No, 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 no. They just pimping your money. But you should be a part of a godly ministry that when you give, your reward is, I'm supporting the work of God. That's why. Not because I'm falling for some lie. And after 50 years, they cannot find anyone that says, "Hey, I'm a millionaire as a direct cause of my following these prosperity teachings, these spiritual laws of prosperity." That's what they call them. Not one person. Not one person. They cannot find one person that produced that. So again, stop following the lies. If you want to support a ministry, just support the ministry. Glory in or rejoice in the fruit. This ministry is leading people to Christ. This church is teaching people, and people are maturing in the faith. Rejoice that the fruit of the ministry, that's the reward. Besides the fact that your reward is in heaven. That's why Jesus told the rich man that came to him, he said, "Go sell all that you have, and you will have treasures in heaven." Now, does that mean that people won't get wealthy? Of course, if you're smart in business, you'll get wealthy. God's not mad at you for that. There are people that are wealthy. Sometimes we could all do better in our money management, you know. But I'm talking about in terms of swallowing the lie. Swallowing the lie that sow seed, if I sow seed, God is going to bless me. One minister used to say, God wants you filthy, stinking rich. His words, right? His words. And again, where's the money? All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought, a comment, add it to the comments section below. All comments are welcome. And I will see you in the next study. And I won't rant, even though I said I wasn't going to rant, but I won't rant. See you in the next study.